Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to get hit with the truth. So today we are doing the mid-year top 10s. I'm starting them. This is going to be on the 122-pound super bantamweight division. As we are going to run through the top 10, any guys that dropped out, where they're ranked, based on what my top 10s were at the beginning of the year. Now, with the mid-years, these are not official. So let me lay that out there right now. These are not the official top 10s. If you are new to my channels, I do official top 10s at the beginning of every year. I do individual videos on who makes it. These are kind of just where they're at for the moment, you know, and we'll see how they finish, and we go over everything that's happened in each division. So again, with this division, it's the 122-pound super bantamweight division. We're going to discuss anybody that dropped out and anybody that's in the new top 5 that's not in the top 10, if that makes sense. So let's get it started here. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So we're gonna kick it off with the guys that dropped out, and that's easy. Nobody dropped out of the super bantamweight top 10. There hasn't been a lot of action at 122 in 2024 so far. So I didn't believe there wasn't really anybody outside of the top 10 that's made any big moves or got any really big wins that warranted them moving in ahead of the guys that were ranked there. So still number 10 is Ionut Baluta, the contender. Baluta, remember, has a win over TJ Doheny. He's had wins over undefeated British and Irish stars. And, you know, he had a really good fight with Michael Conlan a few years ago. I still think he is a top 10 guy. He has not fought yet this year, but July 27th, in just a few weeks, he has his rematch with Dennis McCann, who's undefeated, that will really lock up a top 10 spot still. So a big fight for Baluta coming up. You know, God, it's tough to pick against Ionut Baluta after all these years. He's always so upset-minded. He's always in the fight, and it's tough to pick against him. Just for fun, I'm going to pick Baluta to win this fight. It could go McCann's way. They did fight to a draw last year, but I really think Baluta can pull this one off, so we'll see what happens. That's July 27th. You know, and honestly, if he loses, he's probably dropping out of the top 10. So we'll see. At number 9, and still number 9, is the undefeated Liam Davies of the United Kingdom. Davies is 1-0 this year. He beat, he just stayed busy. Got a knockout victory earlier this year. He's the WBC and IBF's number 5 contender in both. You know, Davies actually has a big fight against undefeated Shabazz Massoud on July 20th coming up. If Davies gets by that, he's going to move up those rankings, and I really think Davies is trying to position himself to fight for a title once Naoya Inoue vacates everything, or maybe even make enough noise where Inoue's got to fight him before. Well, we'll see. But Davies is on the right path. I think he's going to beat Massoud, but we'll see what happens. Should be a solid fight July 20th. Still number 8 is Rais Salim. He's not currently ranked in any of the governing bodies at 122. He has not fought this year. He hasn't fought since that loss to Sam Goodman in June of last year, so it's been almost over a year. You know, not sure what's going on with him. Not sure if he's going to be moving up to featherweight. I think he probably it makes more sense to move to featherweight and make a debut there to shake off, you know, the loss. And there's more PBC guys up at 126, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully we hear something and he has a better close to the year than he did the start of the year, because he's going to start dropping, you know, if he stays inactive throughout 2024. Still not, or well, actually dropping one spot to number 7 from number 6 is former world title challenger Azat Hovhannissian. Hovhannissian is not ranked either in any of the governing bodies. He has not fought in 2024. He actually hasn't fought in almost a year and a half since he was knocked out against Luis Neri in my fight of the year last year in a great action-packed fight. Unknown what Hovhannissian's going to do, if he's moving to 126 or what he's doing. I hope we hear something, because this guy's an exciting ass fucking fighter. But if by the end of the year he has not fought, he's going to drop out of my top 10 due to inactivity. Remember, I go off of your last year and a half. I used to do a year, now it's a year and a half. Year and a half's coming up in August. So if we make it to the end of the year, he will drop out of my top 10, which would be sad because I'm a big fan of Hovhannissian. Number 6 now, moving up one spot from number 7, is undefeated contender Sam Goodman. Sam Goodman stayed busy earlier this year and got a TKO victory, not against a big name fighter. He's actually scheduled to return on July 10th against a fighter he should beat. He's still the WBO and IBF's #1 ranked contender. We know he's being considered as a possibility for anyway. We just don't know if he's a possibility for September or December. The thing about this is he could end up fighting him or not fighting him at all. He could end up fighting him in September or December, or getting asked out and not fighting him at all. The original plan was for anyway to fight Marajan Akhmadaliev in September and then Sam Goodman in December. Sam Goodman kind of started moving ahead of Akhmadaliev, but then now TJ Doheny, who Sam Goodman beat, is being considered for the September fight. And then there's a lot of talk that Nakatani, the undefeated bantamweight champ at 118, could land the fight with Inoue later in the year. So I don't like that, but what it could lead to before the end of the year is that Sam Goodman could get a crack at one of the vacant titles because Inoue avoids fighting him. So we'll see. He's just got to stay busy and keep winning until we get to that point. But I hope Sam Goodman gets a big fight, or at least a title shot. I would love to see him get a crack at Inoue for the undisputed title, though. So we'll see. Number 5, still number 5, is former unified champion Marajan Akhmadaliev. Akhmadaliev, or MJ as he's being called, he has not fought yet this year. He's the WBA's #1 contender. He earned that last year, and he's been waiting around for the potential showdown with Inoue, which he was penciled in for December. The WBA ordered the fight, and then Inoue has reportedly declined the order, and now we don't know if the WBA is going to strip Inoue of the WBA belt and allow MJ to fight for the vacant belt, or what's going to happen. I personally hope Inoue fights MJ in September. I want to see that fight. I'd love to see that fight. But if not, and they do indeed strip Inoue, I think MJ will fight for the vacant title later on this year. The worst thing that can happen, though, is for them to only let MJ fight for an interim belt and let Inoue stay champion after declining the mandatory order. I hope they don't do that. I want to see MJ get a crack at a world title again. So we'll see what goes down with that. Number 4 is former unified champ Marlon Tapales. Tapales returned to action, got a knockout victory, a first-round knockout victory over some nobody earlier this year. We don't know what's going on for his next fight, but he is the WBC's #2 contender. So if the WBC title becomes vacant before the end of the year, you're going to see Tapales getting a crack at a world title again if Inoue gives up that belt before the end of the year, or we could even see Tapales fighting for the interim belt later on this year. So we'll see what goes down with him. Still number 3 is former 2-division champion Luis Neri, who got his crack at Naoya Inoue in May. He was a mandatory challenger. He made history by becoming the first guy to ever knock Inoue down. And then from there, Inoue took over, got pissed off, put Neri down in rounds 2 and 3. Neri did the best he could. He was fighting as hard as he could. But Inoue, the monster, it was just that, and dominated and would stop him in the 6th round, I believe, to retain the undisputed title. So Neary, he is ranked number 3 by the WBC. He's actually also ranked up in the featherweight division, and there's been some rumors about if Turki Al-Sheikh does a Mexico versus USA card, that Neary could be on Team Mexico for that fight, potentially against Stephen Fulton Jr. That's just speculation, though. We don't know. I'm not sure if Neary's going to return before the end of the year. This was his 2nd loss of his career. It was a tough one. He took a shot at the best. He might just take a break throughout 2024 and let the smoke clear and let Inoue give up all the belts before he decides on whether he's moving to 126 or staying at 122 to go after the title again. So we'll see. Next, at number 2, and he was number 2 coming into the year, is former unified champ Stephen Fulton Jr. We haven't heard anything. Fulton hasn't fought in almost a year now, since he got knocked out against Inoue and suffered his first loss. There was speculation that Fulton was going to move to 126 and fight, and I still believe that's going to happen. But because he is actually the WBA's number 1 ranked contender right now at 126. But I think the best he's going to get is probably a mandatory fight instead of a title shot. But he could get a title shot at 126. But I really do believe Fulton is done with 122 and gonna fight at 126. He just hasn't done that yet, and he doesn't even have his next fight scheduled. So hopefully we hear something soon on Fulton returning. And then finally, still number 1, without a doubt, the undefeated, undisputed super bantamweight world champion, the monster Naoya Inoue. Inoue returned in May, as we said, dominated Luis Neary in a mandatory fight. Took the first knockdown of his career, but it was more of a flash knockdown. You could tell it pissed him off. He got up, knocked down twice, Neary down 2 times in the 2nd and 3rd round, and then broke him down and knocked him out in 6 rounds to retain his undisputed title. But as I mentioned earlier, I was very sad to see that he declined the WBA's order to defend against mandatory challenger Mirajan Akhmadaliev. Akhmadaliev is a former unified champ. I really believe Akhmadaliev is probably the 2nd best fighter at 122. And I would love to see him get the crack at Inoue. And Inoue was going to fight him in September, but now Akhmadaliev is still a possibility, but it's looking more likely that Inoue is probably going to fight former champion TJ Doheny. And that sucks because Doheny's not even in my top 10. He's a former champ that lost to Daniel Rahman when he lost the title back in 2019. Or was it 2020? I think it was early 2020 when he lost that belt. Then he went on to, it's actually 2019. But then he's lost, I think, 3 or 4 times since, and that's why he's not even ranked in the top 10. He's got a couple wins recently, but he also lost to Sam Goodman last year. Bob Arum saying that he's very popular over in Japan, and that's why Inoue's considering him. But it's crazy because Doheny's not even a top 10 guy, and Sam Goodman beat him. So and he's his number 1 contender. You're not going to fight MJ, fight the other one, the other champion, and I think that would be good, but he's not doing that, and it's just very disappointing. At least for now, he's not doing that. It's very disappointing that the direction he's going in, but you can get excited for his potential December bout because it could be Sam Goodman, it could be MJ if he's allowed to hold on to the title and not fight MJ in September. But there's talks that he could fight Nakatani, the guy they're calling the next monster, who's the bantamweight champ at 118 right now. So there's a lot of moving pieces for Inoue, but I think he's going to close out the year with 2 fights. Right now, the rumors are TJ Doheny's the front runner to land the September fight, but I'm hoping that's not the case. So the super bantamweight division, not a lot of action going on in the first half of the year. I figured that would be the case outside of Inoue because a lot of these guys want to keep their position strong for a potential Inoue fight, or to potentially fight for a title once Inoue vacates all the belts, because we know that Inoue is likely going to 126 next year. So I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of movement and all that stuff. But I think we're going to get more movement in the second half of the year. Inoue should fight twice if he sticks to his original plan. The top 5 fighters outside of my top 10 right now at 122 are, and again, this is based on their rankings in the governing bodies. David Picasso is the WBC's #1 ranked contender. He's 2-0 already this year. He's a hard hitter. Picasso is the top guy. Then you got TJ Doheny. He's actually the WBO's #2 contender. And again, there's talks of him landing the Inoue fight. Then there's Ramon Cardenas, who's the WBA's #2 contender. You know, he could get he could be the guy fighting for the vacant title against MJ Marajan Akmadalia, because he's #2 and MJ's #1. So you could see Cardenas fighting for the WBA title or an interim title against a top guy in the second half of the year. It's very likely. Then you got Shabazz Masood. Masood has a big opportunity. He's the WBA's #3 contender right now. He has a big opportunity against Liam Davies of the United Kingdom when they collide on July 20th. Masood is undefeated, as is Davies, and the winner is not only going to be a top 10 guy, but they're going to be highly rated in the WBA and likely moving up towards the top 5. So that's a big fight right there for Masood. And then finally, the WBO's #3 contender, former 118-pound champion John Riel Casimero, which we knew was a possibility for Inoue coming into the year, but there has been no mention of Casimero for months now. Casimero hasn't done shit to earn that fight anyway, so I'm glad about that, but we'll see what happens. So hopefully we get some more clarity about Inoue and these other guys making moves to try to move in line for title shots, and hopefully just more action in the second half of the year. But that's my 2024 mid-year top 10s for the 122-pound super bantamweight division. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.